What's up, ScoonTv family? This is this week's edition of the ScoonTv live stream. I'm a little early. We're simultaneously broadcasting at the ScoonTv.com website, where you can check out the archive live streams. You can download the ScoonTv app to check out the live stream and check out our content every week. Also, we're on Rumble, Twitch, and YouTube. I had about 17,000 subs on YouTube, and I post there now because I'm trying to get everybody to migrate over to ScoonTv, break old habits, and utilize the platform that I built with my wife. You know? What's up, brother? How are you? Old school. We in here. I'm a little early. I'm waiting for people to join me. You know? But yeah, I do this. I don't do it for clout. I don't do it for money. I don't make any money off of this. It's important for people to know that I set up a designated server. What's up, George A. William? Yeah, time to bring the heat. Cojones. Yeah, these are the brothers talking to me on the app, old school. But yeah, I do this because it's a service I feel like is needed. There's so much propaganda out there. What I've noticed on X is that there's a lot of bots. And I don't think social media is what people imagine it to be. It's not a soundboard for free speech. It's actually a place where people go to get programmed, unless there are people willing to go against the grain. But most people just regurgitate what they're told. And that's that. You know, is it 8 o'clock? Okay, it's just hitting 8 o'clock. ScoonTv, every week, download the ScoonTv app. Check us out. We got a new documentary that dropped today about Dr. Fauci and his shenanigans. Last week, who did we have on there? I think it was George Soros. Look at the whole catalog. Very, very, very informative. We're looking at a potential pause on SNAP, Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, or is it nutrition? Either or. Come November 1st, which I believe is Saturday, there won't be any SNAP benefits until the government opens back up. And who knows when the government's going to open back up? I think it's all by design, and it's been planned for whatever reason, you know. Yeah, I do think it's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of pain, especially around the holidays. And I see people online talking about they're going to be stealing and what have you. And I wouldn't advise that they do that. I wouldn't advise that they go stealing, because they'll end up in jail. They really will. What you say, William, before we get into anything serious, can you give your perspective on the legacy of No Limit in Cash Money being from New York? That's funny. You know, I didn't even watch the verses. I think from a business model, what Master P did was ingenious, but I never really got into their music. Of course, they had isolated songs that stood out, but they put out so much music and so much artists, and most of it I didn't really connect with. But again, he made his money, I believe, you know. I believe he made his money. As far as Cash Money William, if Lil Wayne wasn't there, I don't think they really were represented right. And believe it or not, being from New York and being from another generation, I still feel like Lil Wayne might be top 5 all time. I think he's a better lyricist than Andre 3000. I mean, Wayne is just, yeah, he did it. The rest of them guys on Cash Money and No Limit, I don't know any quotables from them, yeah, especially No Limit. But again, people enjoy it. It's like people who like Tyler Perry. I used to sell DVDs and I would sell Medea. And they were fanatical about Medea in Atlanta. I had never heard anything about the Browns, Medea, none of that. It looked cheesy to me. But look at him now. He got a studio. There's a market for these things. It's not my thing, though. What's up, News? Oh, Cojones. Oh, yeah. You like the Fauci joint? Yeah. We got one on the Black Boule coming next. And after that, I'm thinking about doing one on the Pritzkers. We'll see as they come to me, because I give it some thought. Why hasn't Trump Organization gone after Fauci? I mean, it's elementary. This is all theater. I feel sorry for the people that really think Trump is anti-establishment. It's one big club. They'll talk about getting each other locked up. They'll do this, they'll do that. None of those people are going to jail. Not Hillary, not Trump, not Obama, nobody. Look at Fauci. There's so much dirt on Fauci. So much. But it looks like he's untouchable. I think George said that. Hey, Darnita, what's up? Kev, what's happening, Kev? E. Franklin Frazier, yeah. I got a book that he wrote. Is it The Black Bourgeois? I haven't read it yet. It's the white and red one cover. I bought it. But yeah, he breaks down a lot of stuff. The brother on YouTube, is it Brooklyn Michael? He wears the white hat. He used to be a Hebrew Israelite, and he left him. Oh man, he does some really good breakdowns of books, and he dissects this whole, thing about race and everything like in a very comprehensive way. I remember during COVID, people were going crazy over when there's a shortage. Yeah, the food stamp situation can get ugly. Absolutely. Before you start, did you see the supreme truth? Nope. And I'm not going to watch it. What's your take on Prince and Bimmy? I think Bimmy's a nobody. And I think Prince has been gone for about 34 years. And he's just trying to feel his way out, I don't believe that they threw Bimmy under the bus to sell the documentary. I mean, they haven't acknowledged him for the past 20, 30 years. So that should tell you something right there. What else we got? So next Tuesday, New York will elect a socialist. Yes, Darnita. Crazy, right? And I think that's part of the plan too. I'm really starting to believe that, these people pretend to be at odds. I want to believe that Eric Adams was forced out to increase the chance for Mamdani to win. Yeah, I believe that. I believe that he was forced out. I saw Eric Adams endorse Cuomo, and it didn't even look right and natural. He said, and he called me names too, and somebody asked a question. If there's one weakness that Eric Adams has, and I'm sure people will say he has several, but the one that just stands out to me is that he's not really a great communicator. He's not good in front of the cameras or at the podium. And it's crazy that he got elected as mayor and that being the case, you know? It just doesn't seem right. Nice breakdown of SNAP by race. Looked about right. Besides, I was surprised Asians were 4%. Yeah. For the people that don't know what Kev is talking about, I posted some statistics about SNAP. And the only reason I talked about it is because it's in jeopardy in the coming days. And there's 42 million people on SNAP. And 35% of them are white. 26% of them are black. 16% of them are Latino. And 4% Asian. And I didn't go below the 4% because it didn't make sense. Because they, had like other and all this other stuff. And also the top 4 states, because I did the top 4 racial demographics. New Mexico was number 1. Oregon was number 2. Oklahoma, number 3. And West Virginia, number 4. And it started a big debate on my feed on Twitter. Curtis Schoon, at Curtis Schoon and at ScoonTV. Those are my 2 Twitter feeds. It started a big debate because everybody wanted to discuss per capita. Now, when I copied the information, it didn't say anything about per capita. But we already know that black people are not 26% of the population. So obviously, per capita, the number is high. And we know white people are not 35% of the population. They're much more. I think there's like 191 million non-Hispanic whites in America. So no, they're not 35% of the population. So per capita, their number is lower. But what I was dealing with was the total amount of people on SNAP. Because people talk about public assistance, social safety nets, as if their primary concern is the cost. So when you show what it costs, it's like $9 billion a month, roughly. And there's like, 42 million people getting that money. And it shows you who's getting what. Immediately, people who like to paint a picture that blacks are getting all the SNAP money, they want to start, skewering the numbers so it reflects their position. And yes, blacks disproportionately are on SNAP. But SNAP doesn't get awarded to you based by race. It gets awarded to you based by your income. So if we're going to talk about blacks being disproportionately on public assistance, we have to talk about blacks being disproportionately poor, because that is the qualifier, not race. So roughly speaking, 1 out of 4 blacks are on some kind of food stamps. And who knows how much it is. Like, everybody doesn't get the same. We see the most extreme cases, people with, hundreds, almost $1,000 or whatever. And I'm sure there are people who work and don't make a lot of money, and they may only get like $100 a month. See, nobody knows. But when you're disingenuous about what your concern is, it just matters that they're black or they're white or whatever. And it's more of you on SNAP than us and blah, blah, blah. And hey, Dave, what's up with you? And like I pointed out, there's so much money government wastes. Elon Musk has gotten hundreds of billions of dollars in government contracts. The U.S. government, Halliburton, Blackwater, these companies made so much money as the U.S. sent $300 million a day to Iraq and Afghanistan for 20 years across 3 administrations. But you got people who want to, out of their obsession with black folks, they're worried about 10.8 million black people getting a couple $100s a month. You know, they don't really care about their tax dollars. They want to make sure that black people are suffering. And when I say they, I'm talking about the people who go crazy over these things that were in my mentions. Yet 1 out of 4 blacks on food stamps and who knows what else. Okay. But there's a reason for that, right? It's because 1 out of 4 are below the poverty line. You know, you want to treat the symptom or address the symptom and not address the cause. You know, what's really going on? And I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. If we really want to fix the problem, we got to identify the root cause of it and tackle it there. You know, I also believe that nobody should be on public assistance in perpetuity unless they're permanently disabled, or if they're seniors. And if they're seniors, I mean, they're not going to be on it for long anyway, right? Not for decades. I know the other side of the arguments. I've seen people who have lived in the projects, grew up, had kids in the projects, and then their kids lived in the projects. And I don't think it should be like that. But you cannot take a minority of a minority and paint the whole demographic with such a broad brush. There's a problematic demographic within every group. I remember reading a book by Ishmael Reed about 30 years ago, and the title was Airing Dirty Laundry. And what happens is that everyone is an expert on blacks, right? Everybody, they don't have to be black, but they can tell you everything that's wrong with black. They don't know how to correct it, though. And the reason why they become experts on black dysfunction is because it's their way of keeping the attention off of their own dysfunction. Nobody ever talks about the other people, right? And what's going on with them. You know, this is what Ishmael Reed was talking about in the book. How everyone is always airing our dirty laundry. But no one says anything about the others. Anything at all. You know, so it is what it is. What we got here. These bigots don't even know blacks. Come on, I know this. They live in Utah, and we'll talk about what about Chicago, you know? And don't get me wrong, something should be done about Chicago. But they have a thing where they won't address the problems that immediately impact them, because they have a need to feel superior. This is my takeaway from all of it. You know, like, I don't even speak about Palestine and Gaza, and do I think it's a genocide going on over there? That's what it looks like. And not to be callous, I got my own fight in front of my face. So I don't focus on that. And I'm just using that as an example of what poor whites don't do. They should be focusing on what's immediately impacting them. And, you know, once you clean up your own house, then you can start taking a look at your neighbors and say, you know, he really need to do that. But if your house is in disarray, what are you doing complaining about the other guy? what we got here. As long as these private companies that claim they want a free market and get the most public assistance. Yo, listen, did you hear about the Pentagon receiving 130 million donations from an anonymous Trump ally to pay troops during the shutdown? No, I didn't hear about that, but it sounds about right. Trump is getting 350 million to build a ballroom from private donations. Private donations, we would talk about, Larry Ellison, Sam Altman, Bill Gates, Elon Musk. They got enough money. 150 million is nothing to them. Nothing at all. They're making a big deal out of the Obamacare subsidies. Can you explain the real problem with healthcare and how it can be solved? I was talking to my HR earlier about that. Because, believe it or not, and I don't want anybody to take it the wrong way, things that I know that I have to have, I just pay, man. I go to the grocery store, I just pay. I go to the gas station, I just pay. I get my health insurance bill, I just pay. Yeah. Oh yeah, Peter Thiel, yeah, I forgot about him. Yep, him too, correct. Yeah, I just pay. I have a very high premium on my insurance, and it's not because I'm sick or anything, because I'm not. It's because I have a low deductible. They give you different levels of deductibles for your money, just like any other insurance. The more you pay, usually the lower your deductible is. So I pay the top, because those deductibles can get crazy. I could probably get away with paying a bigger deductible, but just as I change it, I might end up needing it, so whatever. But yeah, the health insurance business, I'm confused about it myself, William, because before Obamacare, the way I understood things happened is that if you didn't have insurance, once you got to the hospital, people at the hospital will help you apply for and receive Medicaid. So there was never really like a threat that people got turned away and didn't have coverage or whatever. To my understanding, right? This is how it worked. And I'm not saying that was the most cost-effective way, but a lot of people, man, I think forcing people to buy anything, it works out for the sellers. Big time. Big time. I do. Oh, Peter Thiel has a book, 0 to 1. Yeah. What's up, Costello? How you doing? Using black folks as a whipping boy. Yes, Darnita. Trump campaigned about the forgotten man. School, what should Donnie do to help masses? Kev, Donnie ain't there to help the masses. If the masses get helped, it'll be inadvertently. And also, in all fairness, not to blame him or any other politician, there's absolutely no way you can please everyone. There will always be some people who got what they wanted and some people who didn't get anything and some people who got some of the things. And that's how politics work. You have to figure out the sweet spot where you don't piss off the people to the point that you can't get reelected. But you can never deliver everything to everyone. It just isn't feasible, So what it looks like Trump is doing to me is this go around, he's looking out for himself. That's what it looks like to me. I actually don't think he was that bad in his first term, I think he met a lot of resistance. I think just as he was becoming presidential in his third year, he got hit with the COVID. And after COVID, it was the summer of George Floyd, and it just went to hell after that. But prior to that, he kind of got his legs up under him by the third year. The first 2 years, it looked like amateur night at the Apollo with Scaramucci and Omarosa and all these reality TV people and infighting. It just didn't look presidential. But by the third year, he kind of started figuring it out. But then came COVID, and that was that. You know, yet the PayPal Mafia, Peter Thiel has a book, 0 to 1. It's good. But his crew, as a business model, build monopolies and target the government to invest. Well, that's the game. That's what they're supposed to do, right? I'm not approving it, but I'm just telling you, that's what the real purpose of, not the real purpose, but that's what a major purpose of money is. It's to kind of like buy influence. You have to. You know, that's how you eliminate your competition and you get opportunities. And as far as socialism and capitalism, the reality is that America is not a purely capitalist economy. It's a hybrid. And I don't think there's a purely capitalist or communist/socialist economy anywhere in the world. I think there has to be some elements of both, right? But ultimately, those government programs ensure that poor people have money to spend on the services and businesses that the middle class and the elite have. It's just that simple. And you could see it even with SNAP, right? We're talking about food stamps again. Even with SNAP. SNAP was started during the Great Depression. And the reason why it was started was so people could have money to buy food from farmers who had a surplus. They had a surplus, but nobody had money to buy it. So rather than let the food waste, the government gave the people money so they could spend with the farmers. So essentially, SNAP really started as a subsidy for farmers. And when all of these people get their money and they go to Walmart and all these other stores, they are really stimulating the economy with government funding. See, I really didn't understand the difference between government business and private sector, right? Like, I grew up thinking you would have an idea and you get your money and you scout out a location, do your research or whatever, and you invest and you make your money. But when I got to Washington, D.C., I started figuring out that, the government runs everything. Even when it's not a government program, it is reliant on government contracts, government funds, all of the above. So you could never get me to invest in a car wash or a food spot or any of those things. Not that they don't make money, but it's not guaranteed. When you look at businesses statistically, 30% of businesses fail by year 2, and 50% of businesses fail by year 5. 70% of businesses fail by year 10. So after 10 years, only 30% of the businesses are still active. Now, if you have a government contract, and that's why I recommend 8A certification for anyone that's an American citizen. You got to check out the 8A certification and see where that government money is spending. They will fund, under Trump, I don't know that with that minority business enterprise, I don't know how that's working anymore. Seems to be a lot of changes with that, but you have to go after those government contracts. Just having an idea and doing something that you think is interesting, a cigar bar, I don't have time for none of that shit, man. Opening a cigar bar is for if you really got money, and it doesn't matter if it makes any money because you just use it for a tax write-off. That's what private sector businesses like that are good for to me. You know, it's like ScoonTv. I make no money off of ScoonTv. I do get a tax break for it though. You know, because things in the private sector, from what I see, just don't really, the odds are against you. Let me leave it at that. America's a welfare society and capitalist when necessary. Okay? All right? When private companies are flying high. But once they start to tank, they want handouts. They want bailouts, yes. Let me see what we got here. What's up, Ron? What's my view on Andrew Young? I mean, he played the game, man. He won. He won. No scandals. Got appointments. He stayed. He's the ultimate boule from the civil rights era. He and Jesse Jackson, those two. Yeah. And I think I would put Andrew above Jesse, not in importance, but in how he preserved his legacy and his name, for sure. I just don't see this economy holding up. No, I don't either. Going on 4th year of inflation with average folks not seeing a pay raise. Or they're getting laid off. The math don't add up. I think there's going to be a change in the monetary system, Kev. And, you know, at first I thought it would happen like years from now, but it may happen a lot sooner. It may happen a lot sooner. Costello, the topics is whatever you want them to be, man. We're going to shoot. You put it out there, I'm going to talk about it. Good point about pleasing everyone. Yep. This time he's on a mafia tip. Yep. I heard someone explain healthcare like this. You can have 2 of 3 things. Universally, affordability, good quality. You can't have all 3. Well, I'm going to say this, William. I believe that the one that we won't have is affordability. Look, it's going to be expensive. When you see other world leaders coming to America to get their procedures done, that tells you our healthcare system is pretty good. You know? How affordable it is, now that's another conversation. Why it's expensive, that's another conversation. You know, people want affordable healthcare, but, you know, there's affordable healthcare in Canada. They come from Canada to America to get really complex procedures done as well. The Prince of Babylon. The feds will eventually turn on the money printer. I think that, I don't know if they're going to turn. I think it's already planned out. I think by 2027 they'll start the introduction of UBI. And it'll be gradual. I don't foresee them cutting the dollar overnight. But I think poor people are going to need UBI. Absolutely. It's going to have to happen for them. The way they're laying off people, I saw someone say that Amazon is about to lay off 30,000 people, but I saw the projections that 600,000 jobs are going to be lost due to robotics and automation. They're looking to reduce their work staff by 600,000, but in the short term, they're laying off 30,000 people. Target laying people off. It's just bad. So the UBI is going to have to happen. Otherwise, people are going to be going crazy in these streets. Unions were strong, and unions are part of socialism, Kev, for sure. on United Health this fourth quarter. Oh, really? United Health's healthcare stock. Yeah, I know what you meant. Well, they do to bounce back. Only the paranoid survive. No, I didn't read it. Glasgow, what's up, man? Kev, I think Mom Donnie's going to win in a landslide. Cuomo's looking bad. I saw that debate that they did, and it was terrible for Cuomo. He looked like he's there to lose, for sure. What's up, John C. Baldwin? My man, Vegas losing their shirts turned into NBA guys to save their asses. Woo! You know, so I did the vlog about it, and it's up now. We don't send out the notifications as much because the notifications may have been playing a role in what was going wrong with the site. I don't know. But I told a story in the vlog of when I went up to Murder Inc. Records back in like 2004. I went up there to see someone. They had moved from Universal, so they were down like in Chelsea. And you get off the elevator, it's like in a really off the beaten path building. It didn't look like a record company, kind of like a warehouse like type setup. And you get off the elevator and it opened up and there were nothing but casino games. Card tables, crap tables. It looked like a casino, not a record company. And there must have been about, I don't know, about 20 to 30 guys up there. And I'm talking about a very diverse crowd. Because Irv, you know, he brought out the entertainers and the Wall Street types. And they also brought out, you know, the gangsters. There was one person I recognized immediately as I got off the elevator. And at the time, he was on New York's most wanted list for a double homicide. So immediately my antennas go up because I'm like, what is he doing here? And they was just all having the time of their life, cases of beer. But the point of the story is they were all gambling. Because these underground poker games and illegal gambling holes where these more affluent types, celebrities, entertainers, Wall Street, a whole lot of like those type of people, they mix in New York. They all got money. It's coming from different places, and they like to be around each other. You know, the guys with the edge, they like to interact with the professional types. The professional types like to interact with the guys with the edge. Then you got a famous rapper or two in the mix. Hey man, it was the ultimate boys club. I can't even remember if there was a woman in there. Because as soon as I saw the guy that grabbed my attention, that's all that I paid attention to, you know? Press said, Irv and Chris are big gamblers. Yeah, you must know them. Chris was managing Phil Ivey, the Vegas poker champ, young dude out of Jersey that was crushing everybody. But yeah, these games have been going on for a long time. But what was happening, from what I read, Chauncey Billups is a dirty guy, man, because he was enticing celebrities to come to the games and gamble, but the games were rigged. They had cameras under the tables, card counters, x-ray vision glasses. One guy that Chauncey brought to the game lost $1.8 million. And you know, it's hard for people who don't have that kind of money to fathom that, right? Wait, this is a true story, right, that I'm about to tell you. I told it in the vlog that I did. So Chris Gotti, Irv's brother, used to manage Phil Ivey, the poker player. And Jeff Arnold, Jewish guy, had WebMD. They sold WebMD Jeff Arnold is a billionaire. These are the kind of people that used to mix, bro. You know, like, and Jeff was a decent poker player. But you know, he got his ego, he got all this money. He asked Chris to set up a game with Phil Ivey. And Chris set up the game. He brought Phil Ivey through, and guess what? Jeff Arnold won. He beat Phil Ivey. He won like, I don't know, about 600,000. Don't quote me on that. It was somewhere in that vicinity. Phil Ivey went, got the money, and brought it straight to Jeff. Because those guys, they got so much money, they play on their face card, right? They had a second game. So you know Jeff Arnold's riding high. And Jeff Arnold, it wasn't that day, but it was another day. Jeff Arnold lost over $1 million, like 1.5 or 1.7, something to that effect. He did not go get the money and pay Phil Ivey right away. It took months because he kept saying that, you know, he had to find a way to do it without his wife finding out. This is what I was told. He eventually paid the money, but he didn't pay the way Phil did. Phil went and got the money and paid right away. But the moral of that story is, these guys, they got so much money. And I don't even think Jeff was gambling to win any money. I think it was his ego. And I think a lot of these people, they're not so much degenerate gamblers, although some of them are. It's just money for them, man. They got a lot of it. They don't know what to do for excitement. Imagine having that as a problem. Irvin, Chris, yeah, y'all giving me a lot of books to read, man. I don't know when I'm going to have the time to do that. I do a lot of stuff, man. Between the research, the live stream, writing articles. Most of the stuff I research has to do with the articles that I write and the topics I cover for the most part. They saying Rozier was behind $8 million on taxes. Okay, I believe that. And I also believe that Chauncey Billups probably lost a lot of money. And he may have been working it off by lining up marks for these mafia types. And I'm from New York, and only thing I'm going to say is that, yeah, the mob is real, man, but they put their pants on one leg at a time like everybody else. It's not like the movies. It's really not, you know? It's not like the movies. I mean, if you've been programmed, you could believe that, you know, they can touch you and reach you anywhere and all that, but nah, man. You can do to them what they do to you, man. In fact, in the 90s, I worked with what was called a coalition in Queens. And what the coalition would do is they would go to job sites that were union controlled doing construction. And of course the unions were mob controlled. And they would force the unions to hire blacks. As long as they were doing work in the black community, they had to hire blacks. Because the coalition, street guys, they were forcing them. And I remember one time, I never forget this. We showed up and we was talking to the shop steward. And I wasn't speaking, someone else was speaking. And they told me, they said, listen, you got to hire some of our guys. And the shop steward said, I got 2 guys, look over there. And the guy that I was with said, those are your niggas, take 2 of ours. And he took 2 of ours and we left. And that's how it goes. You know, Hollywood, man, it has painted a picture of these dudes like you can't deny them. Like I said, they put their pants on one leg at a time just like everybody else. They can get you and you can get them. That's if you up for it, you know. Like in the 90s, you know, I was around some people that was up for it, you know, and it wasn't just that simple. I don't know if there's anybody from 40 Projects here, but Big Nice, Big Rondu, he allegedly was killed for leaning on the mob sites a little too hard. So there's always risk in everything. It depends on how much risk you want to take. The gambling exposure is about to change the dynamics of the NBA and NFL by next season. Well, you know, I don't watch NBA or NFL, and I don't gamble. So for me, it's like, oh well. Hate when blacks put these mob guys on the pedestal like they don't breathe the same, man. Hey man, I just told y'all my story. You know, I'm not here sitting around a campfire spitting and telling lies. I'm just telling y'all like it is, you know. They said Jay Leno got beat up by the mob. Well, I can see Jay Leno getting beat up by the mob. I can see that. I can see Jay Leno getting beat up by a lot of people. You know, like he's a square. He's an L7. He got a lot of money. He don't want no trouble. You know? Yeah, I interviewed Sammy the Bull. What did you think about Sammy? The Sammy, I got a picture of me and Sammy's on his tippy toes because he's very small, right? And he was on his tippy toes because I was towering over him, right? And my read on him, I can see how he killed all those people. I can. He's very, very deceptive in his demeanor. He'll come across like, you know, like a friendly guy. He's disarming. He is. He is. He's disarming. I could see how he did what he did, you know. And I got connected to Sammy through a dude named Brian Glaze Gibbs. Glaze had wanted to interview me, and I told him I couldn't do the interview with him. But he had the contact with Sammy, and he made it happen. He connected me to Sammy. I couldn't do the interview with Glaze because Glaze had cooperated against some people that I knew. And I told him, I said, man, you already know I don't have nothing to do with none of that, but I'm good with these people, and I can't sit down on your platform with you. And he respected it. Sometimes you just gotta be straight up with people, man, you know? Yeah. Gangster rat, dangerous people. Sammy got little man syndrome. I don't know, you know, like I said, we took some pictures with him because we went to Arizona to his spot. And I got to tell you, if he had any security around, they weren't visible. He had some women around, some people that dealt with the tech stuff, because he got cameras, got a studio or whatever. He was, he'll rock you to sleep. If you just look at him, you'll be like, he ain't nothing. And then, boom, he got you. The gambling problem is hitting close to home with my sister's fiance. She kicked a woo. If he's spending his bill money, he's gone. And listen, Glasgow, not to dump on him or anything, but a gambling problem is worse than a drug problem. Because your body is going to moderate how much drugs you can ingest. But gambling, oh man, there's no governor on that. I just watched that Philly mob doc on Netflix. The mob has changed. Joey Molino had a podcast now. Yeah, I'm familiar with Skinny Joey Molino, and I won't say any names, but a black dude out of New York was trying to press Joey Merlino in I think they was in Beaumont, and another black dude out of DC intervened and made sure that didn't happen. But that's all I'm going to say about that, you know. And Merlino is, from what I gather, he's very, very, very close with them, the black dudes out of Philly. It's just that when he was in Beaumont, it wasn't many of them around. And when you deal with the mob in prison, a lot of them are just older men, you know. And even the younger ones, it's not enough of them in prison. So they don't have the numbers. They don't. And then, so they got to learn how to move with everybody. Some of them try to form alliances with the Aryan Brotherhood and the other white supremacist groups. But even that don't really work out all the time. They don't have the numbers. On the streets, they got politicians, crooked cops, and money, and a lot of things. But inside, man, they're pretty vulnerable. Mecca Audio told his story on his channel. Oh, he did. Oh, by the way, I know Mecca Audio too. Yeah, for sure. Well, I definitely know his brother. Let me see if I can pull up a treat for you guys. You know, yeah, unique Mecca Audio. It's a fact. I was listening to the radio the other day, and I began to notice that there isn't a separation between music. Oh, that stopped a long time ago, Ron. Where you been? That stopped a long time ago. Have I ever seen the negative effects of gambling in my family or associates? Fortunately, not. Fortunately, not. I know some gamblers, but they seem to stay in front of it. I'm not saying that the mafia has become soft. What I'm saying is that they've always benefited from really great press. You know, you got movies like The Godfather and Goodfellas, and these things happen, but it's not exclusive with them. There's always been tough guys from every background, every ethnic group, every region, you know. So you watch Hollywood, and Hollywood will have you thinking like these guys are like, you know, far above everyone else. And that's just not the case, man. Sometimes they got the upper hand, sometimes they don't. And it's just like that. Oh yeah, Detroit gambling for sure. They got enough casinos around there. What else you got? Gambling runs in my family bad. Woo. Seen it destroy a lot of people. Spent half his life in prison. Man, gambling will destroy you, man. You know, they say a very famous boxer has a gambling problem. I don't want to say his name, but I think you all kind of know who he is. And that's why he can't ever really retire. You know, yeah. A very, very famous boxer is rumored to have a severe gambling problem. So no matter how much money he made, it always comes down to how much he lost. And they win, but they always lose more than they won. So let's see. Can y'all see that? That's me and Mecca Audio and his brother Peter Hall in the middle. Back in 1988 in Virginia Beach, right there. Yeah, let me get up close. Yeah, I go back. I've come across a lot of these guys, You know, and it's all good. If I wanted to make a podcast talking about the streets, I could do it, but for what? That was 1988, press. Yeah, 1988. That was the year Alpo was down there doing the Soul Train line. And with the wigs on his head, the colorful wigs. And then the rappers Bismarck and them started wearing them wigs in their videos. Because I'll never forget Poe coming down the Soul Train line dancing to Lucy's Revenge from Rick James. Yeah, it was an iconic moment for those type of events, yeah, for sure. You know, before Freaknik, it was Virginia Beach. Sounded like Cameron with that laugh. Y'all from the same place. Now, Cam from Harlem. Yeah, he had the Soul Train line. Poe was a character. He had a wig on his head. You know, the FBI, the feds was out there, DEA, whoever. They were on all the rooftops taking pictures because everybody had their cars driving up and down the strip and they was on the boardwalk. So they went into novelty shops and bought all the wigs. And they know when the feds was looking, they would put on a show with the wigs on. Like, it was just wild, man. It was wild. That's all. It was wild. I'm surprised nobody put something like that in a movie yet. Maybe I'll be the first one. The white mafia heyday is over. It is. They had a godfather tell for the Bonanno family. What's his name? Joe Massino. They had the Godfather. You know, the feds is dirty. They didn't even need him to do that. They just wanted to slap him in the face. They wanted to slap the mob in the face. What do I think about the gang culture in Chicago? You know, I've been to Chicago one time. It's a beautiful city, man. As far as the gang culture, it just seems like chaos. You know, the only thing worse than organized crime is disorganized crime. And there's a lot of disorganized crime in Chicago. You know, there's a lot of disorganized crime in Chicago. Yeah, Press, you never heard that story because they wasn't there. That's why I don't look at those podcasts. I don't look at a lot of stuff because I immediately detect that this cat don't know, but they're talking to people who don't know so they get by with it, you know? And not just with the streets, even with hip-hop. Most of the tastemakers in hip-hop, they just knew. They got hired by people who aren't from the culture and just paid people who would, do as they said. You know, it's another true story. I went up to Loud Records and I had an artist named B.Y. and there was a A&R named Matt Life. White dude. He had two assistant A&Rs who were black. Matt Life couldn't tell you what was hot and what wasn't, right? So he had the assistant A&Rs who worked under him. They were the ones telling him because Matt wasn't from the culture. But why was Matt in the position in the first place if he doesn't really know the music to pick out a hit or a hot artist? Because he's more relatable to who? Steve Rifkin. Who is Steve Rifkin? The same guy that put DJ Vlad in Pocket. Steve Rifkin is Jewish. DJ Vlad is Jewish. Matt Life was probably Jewish. I don't know. But people look out for their own, right? When black people look out for their own, it's like we playing the race card or something like that. But I don't know of any group of people who collectively succeed because of individual efforts. It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work like that. But that's why I like Dame Dash. Say what you want, but he put, I dealt with Dame because I got Jay-Z's first single on the radio outside of New York. This was when Rockefeller was on John Street, and they had a 75-25 pressing and distribution deal with with Priority Records, right? And Brian Turner owned Priority Records at the time. And they had a single called Dead Presidents. Dead Presidents on the A side and Ain't No Nigga on the B side. Ain't No Nigga's a song with Foxy Brown. They wanted to push Dead Presidents. My sister worked for Kathy Hughes in DC, Radio 1. Kathy had 92Q in Baltimore and another station in Philly and another one in Atlanta at the time. So she had 4 black markets. My sister took the record to the DJs, and none of them liked Dead Presidents. They said that Jay-Z sounded like a Nas wannabe, because that was right after Nas' first album had dropped. Not right after, but afterwards. And Nas kind of like set the tone, and he took that lane. And Jay was really trying to bite his style a little bit. But the Ain't No Nigga track, all the DJs liked it. So even though Jay was pushing the A side, Dead Presidents, the DJs took it upon themselves and started playing Ain't No Nigga. And then Dame Dash, he had some kind of relationship with the music director at Hot 97, Tracy Clordy. And they were getting like 35 spins a week off of that song. But it started out of state with me handing the record to my sister and my sister giving it to the DJs. So now Dame Dash is a guy that he has a big ego, and he got in his own way. He could have been great. He could have been Diddy before Diddy. He really could have been. He had all the pieces, but and now he's just reduced to talking, and he does call people out, but you know, sometimes, man, you don't have to call everybody out. You know, you gotta move in silence, like KRS once said. Knowing is half the battle, but moving accordingly is the remainder, right? If you're gonna be in the room or in the business with all of these people, and you know who they are, and you know what they're about, you don't go on interviews and talk about them. You just move accordingly, and you keep beating them. And you'd be surprised. If you keep it to yourself, they might keep it to themselves and take that beating in silence. But when you start exposing them, they can't afford to have you. Then their big brothers and their godfathers are gonna come and put you in your place for you taking advantage of them. And that's what happens, because you cannot be a black man out here seen outsmarting these people. It's not allowed. You can do it and you can make your money, but you gotta keep it shh, and everybody let it go. Which Diddy am I talking about? Shit. Oh, wait a minute. Not that Diddy. Look. But yeah, Dame was, you know, I was going to reach out to Dame, because what I do is I pick up distressed assets, so to speak, right? There are people that I could never get close to when they're on top. So I wait until everybody abandoned them, and I begin the restoration. But I think Dame is even beyond restoration, because even in his current state, he still suffers from delusions of grandeur. There is no humility there with him. Yeah, I mean, listen, I gave him his props, but I would tell it like it is. Press, he said Dame is a trailblazer. I ain't gonna take that from him. When did gambling become illegal outside of casinos? It looked like gambling is it looked like it's been illegal for a long time. Because when you think about the speakeasies and all that, Wise Mind, what's up, man? Chicago is better than New York City, and this is coming from it's a nice city. I like it. I don't know what you mean by better. It may be better for you. I can't argue with that. What I like about it is the river. and the water around it, you know. But New York has rivers and water. I'm a New York guy, so you know what I'm like. Would Larry Hoover fix that cat? Oh, hell no. Hell no. You know, Larry Hoover can't do nothing about that. What's going on? What, he gonna make speeches? Them kids is making their money doing their rap songs, they drill music. They've created an economy where they profit from self-destruction. They have monetized self-destruction. The only way you're going to stop that is if you take the money out of it. You know, Dame Dash has a good business mindset, but his arrogance and him being condescending probably undermines his intellect. You know, I can't argue with any of that, Wise. I don't know if it's the New York City in him. He's obnoxious to even people from New York City. It's wild, you know what I mean? Like, it seems like he reached places that he probably never thought he would be. The only time I see that kind of mindset is with new money. New money that never believed it could ever happen and get money. And that's what Dame acts like. Jay-Z was clearly in the... I like Jay's songs better. I don't know if Jay is better. I think Jay has a better read on the pulse of the people when it comes to making music. But all I got to do is listen to I Gave You Power, and Jay can't ever make a song anything like that, you know? Dame is a crash out. Oh, man. The live is going in on Dame. Oh, man. A lot of these black entertainers just got lucky. You know, I don't want to say they just got lucky, but they should consider themselves lucky. They should consider themselves lucky because they were allowed to reach those heights. Because it could have been stopped at any moment. And that's what Dame learned a little too late. They can stop your motion, man. You see, it's like we are one spoke in the wheel. But a lot of us think we are the wheel. Like this car ain't rolling without us. No, you're just one spoke in the wheel, bro. Car can roll without quite a few spokes. It's still gonna roll. And that's what a lot of people learned the hard way. Jay a snake. Well, you know, I ain't saying he's the greatest guy. And I believe me talking about not getting paid for putting his music on the air. I believe he made a call to Brian B. Miller and the rest of them. And that's how I ended up on the Breakfast Club. I believe Jay made that happen. They didn't do it because of me. Somebody told them. And the only person I could connect it to is Jay. Because I've tried to reach out to do other things. It's like he was like, man, my time with you is paid. You know, yeah. I think Trump is coming for LeBron. Well, LeBron, if that is true, and I don't know that, I'm not sure why you're saying that. Maybe there's something to it. But if it happens, LeBron brought it on himself. You can't run around. It's like Letitia James. Trump is probably going up for Fannie Willis too. Anybody that got something to lose, that went at him, and not just blacks. See, that's the thing about Donald Trump, man. John Bolton is not black. What's his name? Is it Richard Comey or James Comey? He's not. Trump is going after anybody that was messing with him. And LeBron, for no reason, was tweeting all kinds of obscenities at the man. Like, you really got to know that you may be a big deal in the NBA, man, but When that heat come down, the NBA owners and the league are going to distance themselves from you. What Biggie said, I make it hot. Negroes won't even stand next to you. And that's what Trump is going to do. I say lucky because none of them really pivot. Some people are just one-trick ponies, man. You know, they're really good at one thing, or they're decent at one thing, decent enough to eke out a quality life, but it doesn't mean that they're versatile. They continue to do bad business. Well, let's define doing business. Are they doing bad business, or are they just bad employees? Are they conceptualizing anything? Are they financing anything? Is any of it their money, their distribution network? You know, we was talking about Master P in the verses earlier. Have you ever heard a No Limit song at a sporting event, in a movie? I haven't. Everybody talks about he owns his masters, but again, there goes that one spoke in the wheel again. So what you own your masters? We don't need your music. We have endless supplies of music that we can use. You know, so when people talk about it, I own my masters and I own this. Yeah, but you don't own the game. And the game is what gives your masters value. And that's the part. It's like when people talk about Bob Johnson selling BET. Someone sent me an interview that there was a man who had helped Bob Johnson start BET, and Bob Johnson gave the explanation of why he had to sell and so on. But I had heard another story. I had heard that Bob Johnson was in a position where a rival company was going to be set up, run by Quincy Jones. And because Bob Johnson, even though he owned BET, he didn't own the talent that made BET relevant. He didn't own it, he didn't control it. Someone else controlled it. Bob Johnson and BET came into existence because no one saw them coming. There won't be another BET. You're going to have to do something no one hasn't done before, because once it's realized that it can be done, that hole gets plugged, man. So you're going to get through, and then somebody else is going to have to figure out something that the monopoly overlooked. So they were going to get Quincy Jones to be the face of another black network. And of course the record companies were not going to allow their talent to sit out on BET, because they'd be going to the Quincy Jones model. And eventually BET would have folded. So even though it was worth billions, that sounds like a lot of money to people who have nothing. In the grand scheme of things, it just comes down to big bank take little bank. And that's why I think it's dangerous for black people to glorify money and material things so much, because we will never have the money to compete. What we have to do is emphasize things that money can't buy: morals, values, integrity, culture. We have to be known for that and be valued for that, because what, Elon Musk got $400 billion or something to that effect. I mean, ain't nobody black gonna have that. What did Chris Rock say? If Bill Gates woke up and found out he had Oprah's money, and she's a billionaire allegedly, she got about 2 or 3, that he would kill himself. So if that is the case, and Chris Rock put it in a joke, right? How are you gonna compete with people based on money? I'm not saying you can't beat them, Because money ain't everything. It means you got to find another way to beat them. The FBI going after LeBron James is just about punishing the bigger entity, the NBA. Okay. I just remember him insulting Trump a lot unnecessarily. I just thought it was unwise. LeBron is a very small fish in the bigger issue. He's a small fish with a big mouth. And he may have gotten a hook put in it right about now, for sure. Oh, thank you, George. What plans do you think they have for Jasmine Crockett? I think all of these people that created spectacle at the expense of the people in power are going to pay a price. That's what I think. Is Bob Johnson Boule? I didn't know. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. And please stand by for the Boule joint that we got dropping next week. But in the meantime, enjoy the Fauci. The Fauci documentary. For all the people on Rumble, Twitch, YouTube, please download the ScoonTv app. If you do nothing else, check out those documentaries, those exclusive articles. There's nothing but exclusive content at ScoonTV. You don't have to become a paid subscriber. I'd appreciate it if you do, but you don't have to. At the very least, if you enjoy me taking my time and chopping it up with you guys every week, just share the content that you agree with. You don't have to share the content you don't agree with. If you find it interesting, post it. There's links and icons. You can post it to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, you name it. Do that for me. I appreciate it. Black music and entertainment in some cases undermine black. Oh yeah, big time. Just like the Harlem Renaissance done to black culture back in the day. Well, let's define culture, right? I don't know how Webster defines culture, but I define culture as a blueprint for survival, right? So your culture is going to be shaped by your environment, and your environment, it determines habits, and your habits over time become your customs, and your customs become what? Your culture. Your environment determines the type of clothes you wear, the style, the type of diet that you consume, because the animals or whatever is around you, whether you live near the water or whatever, all of these things that you do generationally, every generation, this is what you do, and you learn and you pass it on down, the way to cook, the way to eat, the type of music, everything. It's all part of your survival system, and the weather, the environment, all these things dictate that. The deification of culture is where you get religion. So when we say black music, rap is our culture, where does rap fit into all of that? What is the environment? The environment is not the streets. The environment is those corporate offices where Jimmy Iovine, Leo Cohen, Edgar Bronfman, Elliot Grange, Lucien Grange, Doug Morris, and all the others, David Geffen, and so on, determine what aspect of black culture they want to promote. And when you are tap dancing for money and wearing blackface, you're just a modern day minstrel. You will get out there and present this as black culture. And this is why they called rap black culture. Because when they started promoting gang culture and Luke Skywalker, Uncle Luke and his misogyny and all that, the defense was, that's not us. That's them. And they got Luke and Eazy-E and all the others to come out and say, this is our culture. And once we started calling rap our culture, it shielded those Jewish execs from scrutiny and criticism. So you give the black entrepreneur a few crumbs so he could say this label is my label, and he will promote and monetize the most dysfunctional, disrespectful version of black people and call it black culture. And the thing about perception is that over time, perception becomes reality. Look at them with their BBLs, with their tattoos. Rap is not music, it's a lifestyle. It's not a culture. Well, I don't know about hip hop coming from the Black Spades. I don't know about any of that. I do remember, I know, Press, that hip hop, from my experience, was an adaptation to people not having money for equipment, musical instruments. So it was cheaper to mix records than buy a drum set and get lessons or learn how to play the horn or sax, guitar, and all these things. It seemed like it was just an outgrowth of poverty and innovation. They say necessity is the mother of invention. Innovation, that's what happened. And then it became popular. And as far as hip hop go, I've said it 1,000 times. It wasn't even really about the lyrics, it was about the DJs. And hip hop in the beginning, to me, was inspired by disco. That's why the club in the Bronx was called a Disco Fever, and the Fat Boys was called a Disco 3. And it was just, the break beats was super disco breaks. And on, because I was there. So I saw it. Nobody likes to connect hip hop with disco, but disco played a big part because disco was the dance culture of the mainstream, and hip hop was the dance culture of the hood. Jasmine Crockett got real sexy all of a sudden. Must be the filters she's using. That's all I know. It's a strong emphasis on entertainment, sports, literature, and arts. Yep. Do you believe race and culture are linked, like the white nationalists say? I think your race and your culture has a lot to do with the environment that produced you. I think Europe has a distinct culture based on scarcity. Europeans ventured out because they had to. It was a matter of survival. And places where there were abundance, they never needed to build ships to go looking for what? Everything they needed was right within their reach. Europeans had scarcity, big time, whether it be from population growth or what have you. Or they had their ruling class had squeezed the rest of the population so much that they needed to go to the New World because their system of governance deprived so many of so much that they needed to go to other places and do to the people there what was being done to them at home. That's how I see it. Oh, okay, bro. Scarcity, yeah. But they do control minds with that music, George. They do. I've watched it transform. I've watched rappers go from Jack and Jill went up the hill to have a little fun. Stupid Jill forgot the pill, and now they have a son. To like, I'll kill you and I'll blow your top off, and they can name. I heard about more guns from rap songs than I heard in the street. So the lyrics matter. The lyrics matter. Or the shirt that I have on, Ron, we have it. We had the site redone, but I don't know if it designates colors on the site. You're making me think to check it out and see. We had the site redone, but we got the red and others. The Boule documentary, it's gonna be fire. Absolutely. Me and News are collaborating already on it. They're forms of expression, but they're business. Yeah, they're not a culture, right? Yeah, okay, I agree with you. That has nothing to do with. That's how I see it. It's not a culture. Tariq Nasheed made a documentary, and he's showing all these people talking over music from 100 years ago or whatever. That's not how rap started, but he wouldn't know that because he's not from New York. So he has his own version, and his people are going to go with what. And it doesn't even matter because I don't know what he's going to do now that he's done the hip hop documentary. I don't know what he's going to talk about next. You notice how now that Trump is in office, I don't really hear much about FBA or ADOS anymore, about reparations. Jake straight up ain't going to get no reparations from the Trump administration. I don't believe they was going to get it anyway. But when you look at what's going on now with the rise of Nick Fuentes, I seen he was on the Tucker Carlson podcast. Oh man, the way they talking. First of all, let me say this about reparations, right? Anybody who's paying attention. Okay, let's not be emotional here. Let's not talk about who's owed anything, who got it, who deserve it. Forget all of it. Let's put that to the side for now. Let's look at $37 trillion in debt. Let's look at rising unemployment. Let's look at the advent of automation and robotics. Let's look at we're on the precipice of World War III. And when you start adding these things up, right, you start realizing that even if they wanted to pay you, the odds of you getting it at this moment are pretty much slim and none. And Slim just left town. So, a friend of mine about 4 months ago called me and asked me for some money. He was somewhere on the road. He was in a jam, and he needed some money. It was short paper. And you know what I told him? I said, I got to give you credit. You know to ask for what you can get. See, and that's an art. Knowing what you can get. So you ask for that. It may not be exactly what you want or what you need, but it's what you can get. And that's a start, and it gets you closer. I think the problem for a lot of people is they don't know how to ask for what they can get. They ask for what they'll never get. And they're just stuck. Love your Twitter content. Thank you. Thank you. Have I ever tried to rap back in the day? No, I did not. I used to DJ. I used to build my speakers and everything. I had 2 SLB1 turntables, 2 Empire 2000E mic, a Gemini 2000 mixer, the silver one, not the black one. And I used to get busy. I had belt drive turntables, not direct drive. I remember it like it was yesterday. You said, so someone on YouTube said they're not sure what Tariq's angle was. He knows reparations ain't happening. It's simple. Tariq is an agent provocateur. Have you ever seen Tariq's Twitter account canceled? Ever? He's inciting racial violence. I've been canceled for saying Negro. Tariq has never been canceled. Tariq is making money. Tariq has an entire white production team that makes all his documentaries. He is an agent provocateur. He is this era's Ron Karenga. It is clear. It is clear. And he takes advantage of people's emotions. Yo, what up, big bro? Oh, okay, cool. I don't know who it is because it came up as yo, what up, big bro? Hidden Colors documentary, he used the old picture of a Chinese man that looks similar to Lionel Richie as proof of black people being the first Chinese people on earth. Look, man, you know, I'll say this. What? Oh, Cornelius, what's up, brother? Yeah. I'll say this, Wise, that when the true human history is not known, and what people do, right, they'll take a little truth and they'll build a mountain of lies on top of it. There are people in China that look very similar to people in South Africa, right? And there are people, there's dark people in the Philippines. And when I say dark, I don't just mean like Aborigines in Australia. There are people, in the Polynesian islands that look like they have some kind of African origin. I think what Tariq is doing is exploiting gaps in information. It doesn't mean that he's right, but he's taking advantage of gaps in information. I think there's a lot to human history that has been concealed from us. There's even a theory that 500 years of Western history is never happened. There's a theory. These are real theories, and I'm not talking about from alternative thinkers. You know, we only know what we are told, what we are taught. And this is why I feel like the most important history is our personal history. Because when it goes back to the past, I don't know how we could be sure of anything. You know, one of my favorite quotes is from Napoleon Bonaparte. And he said that history is a set of lies agreed upon. Because people who write history, they're usually the victors, and it is for them to determine what people remember, and they write it down. And keep in mind too, in human history, everyone didn't know how to read or write. It would just be the elites, the priests that would document things. Most people relied on the spoken word, so much was lost. Whoever wrote things down, they were able to edit it. If you go and you get a Bible from the 1800s, it's going to read differently from a Bible today. What we got? Well, if Africa is the birthplace of humanity, it would be a good guess that they traveled all over the world. I mean, I don't dispute that. I just can't stand on it, though. You know what I mean? It seems likely. It absolutely does. It absolutely seems likely. What we got here? All right, thank you, Darnita. I think let me see if I missed anybody. I think we've done it. Fijians, etc. Yes. Black music and entertainment. Mumin, what's up, brother? Yup, the 500 missing years of history. Very interesting to say. I wonder if it is true. What are they hiding? There's a lot that's being hidden from the average person. Can we handle the truth? What's that scene from that movie where Jack Nicholson said that he said, you want the truth, you can't handle the truth. But in any event, listen, I think that's it. I did my hour and a half. That's what I got for you guys every week. I had a good time as usual, and God willing, we'll do this again next week. Have a good night, and download that ScoonTv app. Circulate that content. Show some support. I appreciate you guys. I'm out.